Hi, this is Emily Moore, and this is EDL 853, the Module 13 case study, When a Student's Rights Are Wronged. So the first thing we want to do is give a summary and the facts of what is happening. This case study is taking place at Nottingham High School. This school has around 3,200 students. There's only one high school, 6 elementary schools, and 2 middle schools in the district. For the most part, the building is up to code. There's still a fourth that still remains the same and has not been updated to fit the needs for all students. And this is due to a lack of funding in the district. This community is very supportive. They love their Friday night football games, and the high school is a central hub for activity for the community. So who is involved in this case study? The superintendent, Dr. Harvey, myself, the principal, Miguel Hernandez, he's a sophomore, a football player, and he was just recently paralyzed. Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez, which is Miguel's parents, Miss Guzman, which is the school counselor, and then Howard Carey, which is Miguel's attorney. So what has happened in this case study? Miguel and his family moved to Dover. They love football and wanted to play football at the high school. Miguel was the first sophomore to ever be the quarterback. He was tackled during a final quarter of a game, and when this happened, he was taken to the hospital. Come to find out, he was paralyzed from the waist down. After his recovery, he returned to school, and when he did that, the parents met with Miss Guzman, which is the school counselor, and they discussed his need to have access to the classrooms as he'll be in a wheelchair. There was no other accommodation that was needed for Miguel. When Miguel came to school, he was welcomed back with a trophy to honor him, and everyone was excited to have him back. So on his first day, he went to his first hour, and he was told that Miss Guzman needed to see him. So he went to her, and she let him know that his third period has changed in his schedule, and he will be moving from biology to another science class. And he was moved from biology because that class had no wheelchair access for him. He will still get his science credit for the requirement to graduate, but this class does not count as a college prep class. So Mrs. Hernandez contacted me the following day to meet immediately. She was upset about the change, and during that meeting, she demanded that he was put back in the class as this course is required for the university that he wants to attend. In that meeting, Mr. Hernandez came and brought Howard Carey, the attorney, and he was questioning if I understood the Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. So this event occurred on the football field. First off, that's where Miguel was hurt. And then, of course, the counselor's office, the principal's office, and then in the classroom, the biology classroom where it all began. So some legal and ethical issues. The first is the Section 504 of the American with Disability Act of 1973. This is in violation as this law protects the rights of individuals with disabilities in programs and activities if they are funded by the U.S. Department of Education. Students should not be excluded due to a disability. They have equal access to education and the same access to information as every other student. And schools are required to provide that free, appropriate public education. IDEA was not in violation because Miguel doesn't qualify because his disability does not affect his educational performance. And then the Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act 1990, he does qualify because his disability limits life activities. I also believe that Miguel is discriminated against with his disability. So synthesizing what has happened in this one sentence, a high school student with a disability has been removed from a biology course and put into another science class because the classroom was not accessible for his wheelchair, violating his right to equitable access. So again, looking back at some of the facts, the people, Miguel, the superintendent, principal, the parents, and then Howard Carey. Um, it was all Nottingham High School, starting at the fields and then in the office, the biology classroom in the office. Um, and the only program that is really involved would be the football program. So reviewing and prioritizing, some things that are important to look at are the fact that the high school and the opposing team are not held liable for the injury. Miguel does not have a 504 plan. He didn't have one before he returned. This case could be damaging to the school if the parents decide to go further and take it to court. The school could lose funding, people could be terminated, and again, the parents could decide to take this further to court. There's a clear lack of communication and a lack of accessibility for all students, and the classrooms need to be accessible, all of them. So options and possible consequences. So there could be no action, and that could lead to going to court. You could move the classroom to a new location, and he stays in biology. The consequence of that would be having to move when the school started. Virtual school biology for Miguel. The consequence of that is he is not in the regular education classroom or in the actual classroom with all the students. Lifts are added for Miguel and the classroom stays where it's at. The consequence to that is funding. And then, of course, a 504 plan should be written, as it should have already been done prior to his return. And Ms. Guzman should never have removed him from biology to begin with. So looking at these actions and the pros and cons, the no action, there's really no pros to that. That is possibly going to court. He doesn't have access to the college prep course, and his FAPE is denied. If you move the classroom to a new location and he stays in biology, the pro is that he gets to complete the course, but some cons is the timing of it, the scheduling of it all, and teachers having to move classrooms, and then the classroom is still not wheelchair accessible. The other classrooms, whatever class goes into that one, it's still not going to be wheelchair accessible. The virtual biology, he gets the credit. He's not in the classroom with the other students. And then finally, the classroom stays, lifts are put into place. You would have to probably have a short-term fix there, maybe virtual for just a little bit. But he gets the credit. The school is updated and has those lifts and wheelchair access for others, for future students. And then a con, again, is finding that funding could be tricky and the timing of it at the beginning of the school year. So when looking at those options, if I were to make a decision, I am going to go with that option 4. I need to talk with the superintendent and the board about this decision and try to get that put in place. Finding funding obviously is going to be important, and I think a big piece of that would be sharing with our stakeholders. And then I need to have that conversation with teacher and family. I think the best option is to get him that credit. I think that he deserves that. Even though some will say he's still going to get that science credit, getting the credit that he deserves and wants, getting that science class, I think is the way to go. And then I think it's best to just go ahead and make that school accessible for all students and for the future. I think it is a little more time, But again, putting things in place and having open and communication with the parents is going to be key in that decision. So when implementing that decision, like I just said, meeting with the parents and putting it and getting it set in place. This is what we're doing. Doing a temporary, if we need to have a temporary um, uh, temporary fix while the rooms are being made accessible, then we will have that conversation with them. And then, of course, meeting with the board superintendent to make sure that I have that support and we can get that done. And finding that funding, I think in a situation like this, that funding, we will find that funding. I think that also making sure through all of this, having that a school attorney um, there is really important, especially if Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez decide to take things further. Um, I think that the it's important that we're immediately getting them into that class. Um, we need to meet as a team to make that 504 plan so that we have that moving forward. And then again, we're meeting all the students' needs through that remodel. Having the open communication with staff, students, and stakeholders is going to be important when implementing this decision. Some additional points. Prior to him returning, that 504 plan should have been in place. If that communication with parents had taken place prior, and we'd started these plans, we probably could have avoided the situation if that communication was there. Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez are entitled to be a part of the plan and any future plans for their students. No one is responsible for his injuries. It's important to make sure that I meet with Miss Guzman about the situation. I think once everything is figured out, it's really important as her building leader that I talk with her and make sure she's aware of what happened and the rights, and talk with her about, if this were to happen in the future, how she should handle it. And I think also even going further and having discussions with my staff in general. So we have this understanding. And then finishing it all up with that agreement with parents, and then opening it up to them, building that relationship back up. Like, what we want your input. What are things that we need to do in the school? What are more things that we can do? But I think finalizing that again with parents is going to be important. Thank you for listening. That is my case study presentation.